when you use a firearm against a police officer, you can run, but you can't hide.
The manhunt is over and a suspected cop killer finally in handcuffs. Hear from the family and fellow law enforcement after the end of a days-long manhunt.
Live in high definition from KBAK-TV in Bakersfield, this is Breaking News.
I am pleased and very proud of the fact that the suspect is in custody. He has been apprehended in Bakersfield. He was safely taken into custody earlier today by teams from the Kern County Sheriff's Office and many other law enforcement agencies who have helped us relentlessly pursue this suspect in pursuit of justice.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Jeanette Quesada.
And I'm Jeff Platt. We start with breaking news. The man suspected of killing a police officer in Stanislaus County in handcuffs tonight after being arrested by Kern County Sheriff's deputies right here in Bakersfield.
That's right, and Eyewitness News reporter Tim Johns is live outside the Sheriff's office right now with the latest details. Tim?
That's right, Jeff. Jeanette, as you just said, I'm here outside the Kern County Sheriff's Office where earlier today they held a press conference regarding 32-year-old Gustavo Perez Arriaga, who is suspected of killing a police officer in the town of Newman, California. From north to south, emotions were running high across the state of California.
Bear with me. This is not easy for me. Ronil Singh was my older brother. Yes. He's not coming back, but there's a lot of people out there that misses him.
Early Friday morning, 32-year-old Gustavo Perez Arriaga, the man suspected of killing a Newman, California police officer, was arrested along with 3 others at a residence on the 8200 block of Brooks Lane in Bakersfield. Arriaga had been on the run since December 26 when he shot and killed Newman police officer Ronil Singh, who was attempting to pull him over for a DUI.
A lot of law enforcement people that I don't know that work days and nights to make this happen. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Arriaga, who was a Mexican national and in the country illegally, was believed to be trying to escape across the border into Mexico. The case has drawn national attention over the past few days and has led some to question California's sanctuary state law.
If he wasn't here, then he wouldn't have been driving drunk, and it wouldn't have been reported to Officer Singh, and the encounter, the enforcement stop, potentially never would have occurred.
It's a sentiment that was also shared by Kern County Sheriff Donnie Youngblood.
When you tie our hands and don't allow us to work with our federal partners and communicate with our federal partners about people that commit crimes and who are in this country illegally, we're going to have incidents like this.
But for the Singh family, they only had one message.
I was waiting for this to happen. I'd like to thank you, working day and night to make this happen. Thank you.
And Arriaga is currently in the custody of the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department on a warrant for murder. Reporting live tonight, Tim Johns, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Tim. Well, Arriaga was not the only one arrested from that house. The Sheriff's Office says 3 others were arrested for aiding and abetting deputies. Bernabé Castañeda, Erasmo Villegas, and Maria Luisa Moreno, all 3 are from Bakersfield. According to the Sheriff's Office, they helped Villegas hide out from authorities while he was on the run.
Meanwhile, people living in the area where the arrest happened say they woke up to the sound of sirens as patrol cars swarmed their quiet street. Eyewitness News reporter Lexi Wilson spoke to people who watched it all go down. Lexi?
Yeah, Jeff, we're currently on Brooks Lane outside the home that Arriaga was staying in and where he eventually surrendered to SWAT deputies. Now, of course, it's quiet now, but earlier today it was a different story. I mean, take a look at this fence that has been taken down to the ground after SWAT deputies surrounded the home. Now, we did speak to a couple of neighbors who heard deputies Like you said, Jeff, calling out and lining the streets. We heard that there were just dozens of different agencies lined up and down this area. Now, we heard the family that lives here is nice and keeps to themselves usually. But here's what one neighbor had to say who's lived in this area for 10 years.
They were ramming through the fences and the gates, and and they were just all over the place, and they were making sure that none of the people would leave their homes, make sure that it was just them. And we just saw the family come up with their hands up in the air, and they were escorted out to the street.
And as you guys had mentioned, deputies have arrested 3 other people who were residing inside that home right there. But again, just a lot of shock and just surprise in this neighborhood. I'm going to throw it back to you guys in studio.
All right, thank you, Lexi, and we'll keep working on following up on this story. Meanwhile, weather staying relatively calm today. Miles Musio back in the Weather Center today. Miles, chilly days ahead?
Yeah, downright cold. In fact, we're going to see the coldest weather of the year so far tonight. You can see the clear skies today. We had a pretty nice afternoon, although it was the coolest afternoon high temperature we've had in more than a year. Right now, we're only at 49 degrees. Dew points up a little bit, but I still think we're going to be pretty cold tonight. Moderate air quality. So it's a hard freeze warning now. We've been talking about this for days. From midnight tonight until 10 o'clock tomorrow, and also on Sunday, same time frame. Rural areas will see temperatures down into the possibly low to mid 20s. So this is where you protect and cover up, protect the plants, the pipes, and the pets. So make sure that you take precautions against this very cold weather coming up tonight here in the South Valley. Of course, in the mountains, it'll be extremely cold there, too. Right now, in fact, 30 degrees below freezing at this hour in Tehachapi. We've got 40s here in the valley. And temperatures otherwise generally very, very cold up the mountains, over in the desert, and here in the valley with pretty light winds, except up on the mountain. We've got 21 out of the north in the Gorman area. So cold tonight. That freeze warning after midnight. Lows in Bakersfield down to around 32, but 20s in the outlying areas. Very cold in the mountains. Some teens, in fact, I think. And the Kern River Valley will be cold tonight with lows getting down to around 26 in the Lake Isabella area. More on the weekend weather and for New Year's Day as well coming up in just a few moments. Jeff and Jeanette, back to you.
Thank you, Miles. Well, the man arrested for the death of a Bakersfield man 2 weeks ago says he is not guilty. Fidel Ivan Gandara was arrested on December 19th, the day after Brian Guzman was severely beaten on White Lane. Near Stein Road, police found him with serious head injuries. Guzman was taken to a hospital and died a few days later. Gandara now faces a first-degree murder charge and is being held on $1 million bail.
Meanwhile, police are looking for a man who robbed a liquor store at gunpoint yesterday. We've got some pretty intense video of the robbery right there. This happened yesterday afternoon around 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the Sunny Liquor Store on the corner of Bernard and Oswald Street. You can see the suspect just straight up pointing a gun at the cashier. He takes off with cash and what looks to be the cashier's cell phone. Right now, we're not sure how much money he actually got away with, and Bakersfield police are still investigating.
A motorcycle rider was killed last night on Highway 155. It happened last night near Lake Isabella. The California Highway Patrol says the rider hit 2 rocks on the shoulder and was thrown from the bike. He died before crews could get him to a hospital. Officials haven't released his name.
It's been almost a year since recreational pot became legal in California, and so far, the market isn't as popular as everyone thought it might be. Industry experts say soaring taxes, complex regulations, and some other things have made it harder for the businesses to take off. They say in some areas of the state, legal pot is taxed as much as 55%, and less than 20% of cities in the state actually allow retail pot shops.
The excise tax is 15%, the sales tax is about 8%, so that gets us up to 23%. And then a lot of localities, we'll use Oakland, for example, has a 10% gross receipts tax. So at every step in the supply chain, the product is being taxed at 10%.
Governor Jerry Brown projected legal pot would bring about $630 million in tax revenue this first year. State numbers, though, show only about $471 million came in.
President Trump is threatening a complete shutdown of the southern border if Democrats don't give up the money for the border wall. Natalie Brand is on Capitol Hill with more.
Discussions have broken down. We do expect this to go on for a while.
It's day 7 of the partial government shutdown, and the White House warns there's no end in sight. President Donald Trump threatened Democrats in a tweet saying, "We will be forced to close the southern border entirely if the obstructionist Democrats do not give us the money to finish the wall."
Is the president seriously willing to do that?
Yeah, listen, it's the only way we can get the Democrats' attention.
Administration officials say the president is willing to come down from his $5 billion figure for the border wall, but Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says negotiators are still very far apart.
The White House and Republican lawmakers are blaming House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, saying she will not negotiate until she wins the Speaker's gavel next week.
Nancy Pelosi is only looking to protect her speakership and not protect our borders.
Pelosi's deputy chief of staff responded, saying White House spin growing increasingly desperate and erratic. Pelosi can walk and chew gum. Democratic lawmakers say they'll pass a resolution to reopen the government when they return and take over the House majority on January 3rd. It would still have to get through a GOP-controlled Senate. Smithsonian officials who have so far kept museums open to visitors say they won't make it that long. They plan to close their doors January 2nd, with the partial government shutdown going into the new year. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Another agency affected by the shutdown will be the Environmental Protection Agency. It's slated to run out of money within hours and will be forced to close by 9 o'clock our time tonight. The agency's acting commissioner said its 14,000 workers will be put on furlough and that all of their travel expenses will be canceled. Only national security and emergency staff will stay on.
A car rushes down a neighborhood street right into a house. Hear from neighbors who pulled the driver from her car.
Also coming up, a massive smoking settlement causes tobacco companies in the millions. Why people on the receiving end of the money aren't happy.
And an explosion lights up the New York skyline. The explanation behind the cost, a social media storm.
And it won't only be the skyline turning blue, it's going to be cold tonight. In fact, it's going to be the coldest night of the year so far. A hard freeze warning in effect. We'll talk about what you need to do to protect your plants and pipes against that. Coming up.